we've harped on, and the government or the prosecutor or the U.S. attorney is supposed to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that they're guilty. When you look at it that way, technically, the defense doesn't have to be that great, because if the evidence isn't there, it's not there. But that's not the reality. You have to put on such a strong defense to prove your innocence because of all these things that take place, because of this misconduct and bending the rules and going forth with witnesses that you know are lying. And it all ties into one another. You know, this is one giant cycle that people aren't recognizing. It's one big cycle. When you add it all up, it's a dangerous opponent. When they have all these tools that they could use and all these tactics that they implement. When they have a target, then they get informants, then they make the informants lie. You know, then they have evidence fit that isn't reality. I spoke about changing transcripts, putting words in that don't exist, putting people's names in that don't exist, and then using, you know, unintelligible to make it like the transcriber couldn't make the word out, but they know it's the defendant, when in fact it's not. You know, there's a lot of tricks you could use to paint the picture that somebody's guilty when in reality they're innocent. And I never understood how these things could be manipulated. You know, one would think, well, if they're innocent, they're innocent. It'll come to light at trial. But as we know, that's not how it goes, because so much is controlled from the judge's end, from the prosecutor's end, from what's allowed in, what's not allowed in, all these tricks that the prosecutor could pull. All of these things influence the truth from being brought to light. And there's no accountability. They could go in, you know, like the Wild West and just do what they want, like cowboys. And there's nobody to tell them, stop, you can't do this. This is unethical. This person's obviously innocent. You can't go forward with this. There's a petition on change.org. And you could look it up and even sign it, because it's a great concept. It's justice, not politics. Hold prosecutors accountable for misconduct and wrongful convictions. And it goes on to say how judges and prosecutors are rarely held accountable for misconduct, even when it is proven that their actions have been responsible for wrongful convictions. As a result, the families and the individuals are harmed by the collective misgivings. There's no legal recourse or punitive remedies available. And it states how it's an unacceptable practice. Officials should be held accountable for their actions. The right to fair trial is an American ideal that has been tarnished by judicial dishonesty and neglect. The facts of a case and the truth of the matter should always take precedent over political aims and goals. And that's just not political aims and goals. That's just personal aims and goals. You know, if you get a prosecutor that just doesn't like the defendant, doesn't like their reputation, doesn't like who they believe they are, that's a dangerous combination. They now have a target based on a personal grudge or a belief that this individual may be guilty of something, even though the current case does not support it. And they're going to do whatever they can to convict that person. And, you know, this petition goes on to cite a few statistics, and one of them, which is extremely alarming, is based on a study of 100 death sentences overturned by post-conviction evidence. Now think about that. Those are 100 people that were convicted and sentenced to death. Out of the first 70 cases that were reversed, over 30 of these involved prosecutorial misconduct.